Come on. Okay,
I was going off the dome, man. Like before they made YouTube, they used to call me, and I fell back. And I saw your list last night. You had that Nelly sweat suit, right?
No, I had the saying, but I get it.
You're gonna have females come up in there a whole lot too. We'll play a card in and see.
So me finna go ahead and start this out the right way.
Exciting times and good days. Happy Wednesday. We are so excited that we are getting ready for Juneteenth this weekend, and CTS podcast will be the official podcast for the Juneteenth celebration. So just to kick off our conversation, as if being honored to be able to be on WIS and talk about the podcast wasn't enough, we have an Emmy award-winning Arthur on here today, who is also a historian. I'm gonna throw that Emmy in there all the time, right? Right.
As you should.
That is going to educate us on the did you knows of Juneteenth, Black history, and so much more. So for the first time ever, you are going to notice the three of us being quiet, because tonight we are students as we ask questions and eagerly listen for the information. So without further ado, Frank, I'm gonna let you tell them who you are, and then we're gonna go into what you know.
Yeah. Hey, listen. First of all, praises to the Most High. Without Him, we're nothing. Number one. And I just want to thank you guys for having me, and I really appreciate it. The show is wonderful. I watched it. For the last past, I would say probably a month and a half. You guys are doing an excellent job. Love the content, love the dialogue. It's a really good way to get really good information over to the people. And I love the content, and I love the spontaneity, and I love the way you guys gel together. Something about the show that it just seemed just so natural, and also at the same time too, the conversations that you guys have is just so transparent and very organic.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. But listen, you guys, you can ask me any questions that you want to, because I may be a little long-winded at times, talking. The conversation may get a little, excitedly intense, from time to time, but it's going to be a good conversation. But I've been a history buff, since I can probably crawl. But growing up in Brooklyn, that kind of education wasn't really allocated, to me, growing up, especially in the late 70s and the early 80s. The demographics of American history, was a lot different back then. I know when I went to school, the only thing I learned when I opened up a history book, or opened up a book, the only thing I read was see Spot run, see Jane and Dick play, and looking at the Brady Bunch and looking at Little House on the Prairie. So when you see stuff like that, as a little kid, and the media and the television is geared toward white America, it kind of puts you in a position, and kind of puts you in a mindset. When you look at shows like Good Times, which showed a great deal of reality, within the Black family, but they showed them in a poor aspect, living in the projects. Which on the flip side, they showed people like the Brady Bunch. You had Mike and his wife, stay-at-home wife. Mike was an architect, and this is what I saw growing up. So when you look at stuff like that on the media, and when you read magazines, Elle magazine, white women, newscasters, white women, you kind of like put in your mind like, wow, maybe they are the best, maybe they are the greatest people in the world, and maybe we're just that generation of Evans family, during the 70s. You know, when you travel a lot and when you read a little bit more, I was a library rat, you know, especially when I was in high school. And, you know, when I got out of high school, you know, I just became a library rat, you know, stayed in the libraries and, you know, just learned a phenomenal amount of, you know, education and went into the library sections that Black people didn't go into. That was the sections that I went into. And
I respect that you did that a lot because we've had discussions about this. I don't like when people say, go ask this person or talk to this professional. I like to say, go read it. Because we tend to believe that a title makes you an educated professional on it. And as you just said, the media taught us that Black is dark, Black is behind, Black is low, Black is poor, Black is bad, Black is mysterious, but Black is powerful. And you had those conversations with me, even when you talked to me about powerful Black people that we were taught that were not Black people. They were Black, but we were taught they weren't Black.
Right.
And it's how history's been twisted for us, which is a lot of what we are truly going to be students of yours tonight, learning about how our history was twisted and misguided when it was given to us.
Hey, listen, Sister Crystal and Brother Hurt and Brother Ian, let me tell you something. You know, when you go back into the Caucasian history, you know, that's you know, Caucasian is a word that just means cave dweller. You know, if you were in the caves, you know, for over 1,000 years, you know, your history is dull. You have really no history to tell, you know, other than, you know, what you see. You have no history to tell. You know, it's dull, it's vast, it's just no history. So, you know, when they were let out of the caves in about maybe 2 BC, you know, and then later on under Alexander the Greek, when they started conquering all the dark nations, they start mixing their seed with all the dark nations. Of course, I mean, you're going to make up, you know, people that you're not. I mean, that's what Hollywood is all about. Hollywood was erected, I think, in 1898 by a German, and that's what Hollywood is all about. You can pretend to be somebody that you're not. So everything, you know, about Hollywood, except for, you know, the things that we see, and is just a fictitious, you know, segment, you know, that's brought to us, you know, by the media. Yeah, I mean, come on, you know, look at Rocky, and this is just going off the beaten path a little bit. It ain't nowhere in hell, okay? Apollo Creed, the Black man gonna give somebody that much of a behind licking, and he gonna survive. I mean, he beat Rocky down to a pulp. But my point is this. At the end, you know, who was victorious? You know, he called out Adrian and everything, you know, and so that puts us in a place where, you know, we feel that we're subservient up under these people, you know, and we feel that we really, you know, don't have a place in history other than what we see and what is shown, other than we was just captured and brought over here and we were put straight to work and they taught us everything. And nothing can be further from the truth, because I tell people this all the time. Hey, listen, when we was brought from those slave ships, I don't remember. What about you, Brother Hurt? I don't remember, you know, no college in between those plantations when we got sold.
Not
Okay,
a college, not a trade school, not a nothing.
we went straight.
Somebody had to teach them that. My thing is, if they were so good at it, nothing was granted to us where they could show us their ways. I feel as if though we brought a lot of mathematics, a lot of astrology, a lot of herbs to the forefront, and it's like when you go over to Egypt and you see the noses blown off the pyramids. That was a way for them to disguise where they didn't want the nostrils to spread. They wanted to be more so narrow. They got you believing that cowboys were just strictly white, with 76% of the cowboys were African Americans, right. and how barbed wire and Lee jeans even were created. It's a lot of things that I was looking at one of your shows, and you were right. The best way to trick a nation to hide their history and at the same time make them succumb to what you want. So you hide their identity, you give them another identity, and you can pretty much say that you're providing the outlet. Whereas if though that goes back to hints, acting like a quote nigga who have never had nothing, not knowing that you're God, you had everything. So like we're all and all to have you give us this history lesson tonight. So we know nothing. We just want to hear you tell us everything.
Hey, you hit me with a ton of bricks when you taught me that first time we spoke, that So I've always had a problem with the fact that the only thing we have from Rosewood to Roots to The Color Purple to any of these movies that we've considered historical, legendary Black films were always broke, poor, passive, hurt, with a lot of family issues. None of a lot of the movies really show us that there was more wealth than in one or two spots. There was more success. There were more millionaires than Madam C.J. Walker. It's that kind of stuff because it wasn't what they told us it was, and that's the kind of stuff that hit me a little different. Like there was more than one. I keep saying it. There was more than one Black Wall Street. There were plenty of places. We own more land than we know, but they took it, and we don't trace back to realize that's ours. And I really want to horn in on that. Even when we jump into this Juneteenth, we have not always been broke, passive, and broken.
Right. Let me segue into that real quick, right? The Emancipation, 1863, the Emancipation was passed. 1865 is, when it had, the cities down in Houston, down in Texas. Let me hit you with this, right? 1865, a lot of people don't know this, Brother Ian and Sister Crystal. A lot of people don't know this, but during 1865, after the Civil War, you had more slave concentration camps than they had in the whole Nazi Germany. They had this one in particular called down in Natchez, Mississippi, called the Devil's Punch Bowl. And that was a slave concentration camp where they worked. Well, the slaves actually, after the emancipation, you had the slaves down in Mississippi, in Natchez, Mississippi. And remember this right here. They didn't have anywhere to go. After the Civil War, they didn't have anywhere to go. So they were called vagrants, and some of them were called vagabonds. So what they did, they just hung around the plantations. They hung around, Natchez, Mississippi, the community of Natchez, Mississippi. So you had the Confederate soldiers straight out of the Civil War that literally shuffled them back into slavery, which was a worse slavery, than prior to the Civil War. So after they worked the women, kids, and it was called the Devil's Punch Bowl down in Natchez. So after they worked the women, kids, and adults, when they worked them to death, I think it was over 25,000 of them, they actually threw them over the cliff in Natchez. So even to this day, I know when I went down there and took the pictures, they have like these peach trees that grow over the cliff where the slaves were thrown at, where they were killed at. And nobody eats those peaches for some strange reason. They don't want nobody to eat the peaches. But it was more slave concentration camps in the United States after the emancipation was signed than anywhere else. And people don't want to talk about that. I got another one for you too. Was it Ulysses Grant? President Ulysses Grant was president, I think, from 1869 to 1877. Now, remember those dates. This was after the emancipation of the free slaves was signed. Don't you know Ulysses Grant had over 10 slaves still?
As the president.
And he's the president. President after that, Ulysses Grant. He was president from what, 1869, I think, to 1871. He had over 15 slaves after the emancipation was signed.
So how are they able? Because if the president before you put that into place, how are you able to just say whatever? I'm still gonna keep my slaves.
Hey, listen. When they make amendments, they don't. Remember this, Brother Ian. When the United States government make amendments, they don't eradicate them or erase them. What they do is ratify them. Okay, which just means to make an adjustment. That's it. Okay, just like during the time of Lewis and Clark, and during the time when what is that guy's name again? Not Lyndon, Andrew Johnson. Okay, Andrew Jackson, when he was president. What was that? 1865. When he was president, he made up a bill called the Removal Act. Okay, which removed the North American Indians off of their land, and he promised them to give the land back. Now I'm gonna segue into this right here. This guy signed over 375 peace treaties, with the North American Indians and broke every last single one. So they shuffled the North American Indians, the Seminole Indians, from Florida all the way through the West Coast, and that's where the saying "the Trail of Tears" came from.
Trail of Tears.
There you go, brother. There you go, Brother Hurt. Right, shuffled them all the way from Florida all the way to the West Coast into North and South Dakota is where they're at today. So you had Thomas Jefferson, 1830 Removal Act. You had Thomas Jefferson that did that. So you had some of the families and the Indians, the Pico Indians, and you had, Indians coming back and asking back what happened to the treaties and what happened to the land. So, they would call them, they would say, you gave us the land. And that's where the term Indian giver came from. The Indians didn't give them anything. They stole everything from the Indians. So that's where the term Indian giver came from. They was telling the Indians, they were saying, you gave us the land, now you want it back, which was furthest from the truth. So you still have a lot of amendments that are still in place today, okay, that the United States still hold today. They don't get rid of them, they just ratify the amendments. That's all they do. They just make little small, adjustments. Here's another one right here. The 40 acres and a mule, all of a sudden they just forgot, about that. And also at the same time, also look at the reparation. Everyone forgets all about reparation. We built this country from scratch. During the time of what was that president name again? Lyndon Johnson. In the 1960s, listen up real good. 1960s, President Lyndon Johnson. That was when most of the black people was making the most rebellion in the 60s. When you had King, when you had X, and those guys out there, because the segregation, okay, in which we swayed into integration, you had a lot of blacks that didn't like that, because at the height of black inventors and at the height of black riches, like you just said, Sister Crystal, that was when blacks families, that's when we were at our strongest, when we were segregated.
But you see, they not to interrupt you. They did the same thing with HBCUs. At one time, the HBCU was so prevalent in the NFL for having good quality athletes that they had to segregate it. It's no different from the Negro Leagues, from the Globetrotters having to play the New York Knickerbockers, from the Negro Leagues having to play the New York Yankees. You hear about Josh Gibson very little, because he hit 972 home runs when Babe Ruth only hit 714. Right. But America somehow celebrates this, where we have the Oklahoma Sooners, where they planned to give this land back, but the people moved back too soon. We have the San Francisco 49ers, where we have the 1849 Gold Rush. We have the Atlanta Braves. We're so prejudiced, but it's so prevalent that it's become the norm. And what I'm saying is, so many people that's woke or awakened that aren't talking about these lies that are being presented. So my whole thing is, I want to learn about the history. I want to learn about the history of the history. So when you said that we're being whitewashed, I want you to elaborate more on that, because we're here to talk about conversation suit, and hip hop is a very prevalent part of our conversation. But how much has hip hop, the idiot box, as you like to quote it, has played a part on this paradigm shift of our culture? Because 1968, we were ready to march. We knew we probably couldn't go to work tomorrow. Today, they want you to march. We got a DJ, we got cameras, they go on Facebook Live. It's not as serious. So where did that shift come, and how far are we removed from having to come back?
Before you go there, though, Herc hit a good point that I think we twisted for a moment, because you're right about what happened with sports. But what he was kind of saying was, you remember the movie, Ian, help me with the movie name, because you know how I am, about the ladies who went to work for NASA.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that movie, when those three little girls went to school, the teacher said, she's a mathematician.
Right.
She is great in English. She is great in that. They were in a black school.
Right.
Those teachers saw, send her to the school of the gifted. Send her here. Right now, you could be a mathematician. Dr. Ian could be good in English. I could be good in science. But we ain't good at the other parts. Ian gonna be in a class because he's gonna be remedial for this. You gonna be remedial for that. I'm gonna be remedial for the stuff I'm not good in. And we're never going to NASA, because it's gonna have up on our stuff where we're not good in, because that's what the desegregated schools did. But them segregated schools horned in on your gifts. And I'm not saying that, it's a situation where we have to go back, but I am saying during that time we were thriving because people horned in on your gifts and they nourished your weaknesses. Whereas right now your weaknesses are pushed to the side, and you're just depleted as somebody who, I get an IEP, I get a pill, they're not paying you no attention. We got because they made us love their wealth and hate ourselves. We got dumbed down. And that's what he's saying. We were dumbed down
I agree with that.
when we were implemented to only give you what you want, but you just won't get it the same.
Right. So how far are we removed from our old ways, and at what point in time, besides the 60s, like you said, when we start drifting away, with the Panthers were pretty much something that you could go to, with Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and so many others. Like, how far are we from those leaders now who just want likes, opposed to who want change?
Hey, brother Hurt, let me bring your attention back to something that you said. In the late 18, like after the emancipation was signed, and you had a lot of slaves that left, on their own. That's when we were at the height of our genius. The neighborhoods that were segregated, as far as you have black cities in Detroit called Paradise Valley. Of course, everybody knows about Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood. You had the Carr sisters, that actually owned all of Virginia Beach. You had other black families, prominent black
Durham,
families.
North Carolina.
Right. In Durham, North Carolina, you had the three guys, that's right, that built up the insurance companies, that's right, and came together actually and put together a bank called Mechanics and Farmers Bank as we know it today. That was actually a bank that was started by three black men in Durham, North Carolina, but you ride by it every day and you will never know it because they won't tell you. They had
sisters. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Mechanics and Farmers Bank that was founded by three black men in
But
Durham.
the sisters on Virginia Beach, go back to that.
The Carr sisters, Virginia Beach. They started Virginia Beach. The Carr sisters, C-A-R-R. They started.
I've never heard of that.
They started that beach in Virginia. They bought over 120 acres of beach land and was tricked, out of selling most of it. And we know that the rest of the story is history today. Hamptons, New York, started, by black people. Puff Daddy ain't the only black person that lives up there in the Hamptons. It was started by black people. So now you got blacks, they move up there, they think that they're doing something spectacular, but it was founded. The Hamptons was founded by black people. It was founded by black people. Just like they trick your forefathers out of the land, just like when Columbus came over here and swindled the North American Indians out of their land. It's the same thing they do today. And going back to your point, Brother Hurt, I don't want to get off too much, but going back to your point, you had black communities that were thriving, airports, Tulsa, Oklahoma, airports, hospitals, cities in Chicago. You had a black guy by the name of Dr. Daniel Hale Williams that built a black hospital called the Providence Hospital. He's the first open heart surgery black man that ever did something like that. So it was a black hospital that was erected by black engineers during the time of segregation. So let's speed it up just a little bit. Blacks have their own land, we're minding our own business. We have our own schools, we have our own supermarkets, growing our own produce. We have our own pharmaceuticals. We have our own churches. Steps in. You got guys. And this may sting a little bit, but you got guys like that infiltrate and they hide one of the most perfect guys. To come in and usher us right into integration into the hands by enemies, and that's old Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was hired by the CIA to usher us to integrate with white America. Now, I got a question for you. If we have our own water systems, school systems, we have our own hospitals, supermarkets, why do we want to integrate with anybody? And once we integrated during the 60s, we had more drugs coming in our community. Our food got poisoned. The education system got worse, because I got a problem. As a black dad, I got a problem, with my kids, they go to school today, or any black kids go to school today, and our kids still running about George Washington. And George Washington had over 325 slaves, Thomas Jefferson, which they still teach this in the schools, he had over 600 slaves. So I have a problem with that when our kids are being taught, something or some curriculum that has everything to degrade us, because of being a slave, it was nothing good about being a slave. It's synonymous to hard labor, death in most cases, no pay, in all cases. We worked and built this country for over 40 years and got nothing in return for it. So here it is, this guy named again, Lyndon Johnson, he signed the bill in the 1960s because that's when he was raising a lot of hell, Brother Hurt. He was raising a lot of hell in the 60s. So here it is, Lyndon B. Johnson, he wrote out a bill called the Affirmative Action Bill. And that was supposed to have replaced, okay, the reparation of the slaves. So instead of having one black guy on the job, now you can hire 15.
Right.
Line and sinker. And I don't know if you know about this, but I think in the late 80s, I think between 86 and 1990, you had a guy named Jesse Jackson. Remember him? You ever heard of him? Jesse Jackson, he raised the bill again. He
picked up where Martin left off at. To finish the agenda.
Jesse Jackson raised the bill again. He said, we want reparation. We want, Operation Push. We want reparation. They went back to that old bill and said, hey, listen, Martin Luther King, Santos, Lyndon Johnson, y'all agreed to this. Y'all agreed to the affirmative action. Okay, instead of hiring one Negro, now we're gonna hire 15. Okay, that's supposed to have took the place of reparation.
That's just too much. So I wanna go back a little bit further though. As like you said, we're all doing our research. With you being an author yourself and you have proof of all these gentlemen from way, way back that were black, how is it that you feel they're not promoting that today? Because if you can find it, anybody can find it, but they're still trying to tell us that Socrates and Beethoven and Shakespeare,
all them white allegedly. Nobody got rid of them after Beethoven, but all of them white.
No, because Frank has actual photos in his books.
I'm agreeing with Frank, but I'm saying,
so how is it that they're still able to whitewash our brains when we all know, like, no, this isn't even true?
Hey, brother Ian, you want to know something? Follow me on this one right here. Have you ever heard of the Renaissance period, 1400s?
Yeah.
All right. Remember these three names right here: Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Rembrandt. Remember those three names right there. They were hired in the 1400s to redo and repaint all the dark art. Prior to that, there was really no white art, okay, at all back then. Okay, prior to the 1400s. This is really the only thing that you've seen prior to the 1400s.
Frank, elaborate real fast what dark art is.
Right.
Yeah, tell dark art is exactly.
Right. Dark art meaning the forefathers. Because look, let me bring an interesting point to you. A paintbrush, a camera today, a phone camera and a camera today is nothing but a modern day paintbrush. That's all it is. We take pictures of what we see. They painted everything that they saw. And what they did, they put it on the walls, they put it inside the churches, they put it down in the catacombs, what they call the catacombs. They put it inside the museums, they put it inside the temples. The same way, like your parents, you may go over there, they may pull out a photo album, okay, of pictures that they took of an Instamatic camera. I'm showing my age a little bit. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all remember that Instamatic camera your grandfathers or your mothers used to pull out, and the thing goes this, and the picture come out.
Shake that photo. Chris, stop marking me, Chris.
There you go. And they used to put it inside a photo album, those pictures, and you go back and you look and you like, oh my goodness. Our forefathers did the same thing. Only difference is they painted everything that they saw. And these are some of the pictures that they saw that's still over in museums like Russia. These are ancient paintings that's still hung over in museums. Okay, that's dark. Like this is like a picture of, yeah, Casanova. He was black too, by the way. This is a picture of King David in Spain. Okay, and this is in my book right here. No, that's not King David. Here he is right here, playing the harp. And you can clearly see, okay, that is a black man. You don't get no white out of that right there. Okay, you can clearly see, look at the man's lips, you can look at the man's nose, and you can clearly see, okay, that is a black man right there. Okay, now let me hit y'all with this right here. I rarely get a chance to bring this point out right here, but I'm so glad. Okay,
I am too.
Casanova was a real man. Okay, Casanova was a real man. He was a black man living in Italy. Okay, and this is an article right here that was written in 1775. Okay, in Venice, Italy, June 1798. It says the world's greatest lover, Casanova. He's described in his bio above. Okay, the memoirs of Jacques Casanova, written about his life. It says he is someone always depicted with an African complexion. I can't make this up. I can't make this up. Let me ask you a question, brother Ian. Let me ask you a question. Okay, what do most Caucasian, that old saying, a Caucasian want a man that's what? Tall,
dark and handsome.
There you go. Ian was scared to say it.
I don't know.
Ian was scared to
I'm
say
tall,
it.
dark, and handsome. I'm tall, dark, and handsome. So go ahead.
Yeah, tall, dark, and handsome. And she wasn't talking about no Caucasian that got dark hair either. Okay. Tall, dark, and handsome. This is a picture right here, okay, of King Solomon. Okay, that's in Siberia. And this is what I mean by all the dark art. Okay. Let me show you something else. All right. Look, let me say this. To rule over certain people, okay, to rule over certain people, you have to subject them, okay, into thinking, into knowing, okay, that they're nothing. Okay, you're not the greatest people, you're not the astronomers. Everybody know Benjamin Banneker engineered the White House. Okay, he was the greatest astronomer on this planet. Okay, you got guys like George Washington Carver that invented peanut butter. Okay, you got a guy by the name of William Purvis. I mean, look, just everyday things like the pen. William Purvis, he made the pen. Okay, all right. Even the folding chair, you got two black guys by the name of Segwar and Purdy. Okay, that made the folding chair. You got another black guy that made the color computer screen. Okay, this is a book right here. To answer your question, brother Ian, this is a book right here. And I knew this question was coming. That's why I brought it, brother Ian, just for you. Okay. This is the Life and Times of Shakespeare. Life and Times of Shakespeare. I didn't write this book. This is an old book right here, too. Okay. That's why it's all tainted. Now, if you was
bro, I don't own the rights to this book. I don't own the rights.
If you was to go to the library, you would never ever look at this book right here. You like William Shakespeare. You like, man, get out of here, man. William Shakespeare, get the hell out of here. But when you go in the book, and follow me. When you go in this book, here's a picture of William Shakespeare. When you look carefully at this picture right here, and I want y'all to follow me. Look at the features, okay, of his forehead. Real bright, very bright. And the reason why it's bright, okay, is because they took chemicals and they whitewashed his forehead. They couldn't get everything. If you look around the beard around here,
like Eddie Griffin,
you notice it's dark, right? And his hair actually is curled up, and he got an earring. And if you look carefully around his eyes, also, brother Ian, it's dark. Now look, I'm gonna show you William Shakespeare's best friend. You think I'm joking? Okay, I'm gonna show you his best friend.
You think I'm joking? I'm gonna show you he look like Eddie Griffin.
Eddie Griffin.
Ain't that the one, the comedian? He looks just like him.
Now look, I'm gonna show you the guy that used to hang out with William Shakespeare. This is William Shakespeare's best friend right here.
There you go, right there. Yeah, that's a brother.
That's a brother.
There's also a picture of King James in here. King James has translated the Bible from Hebrew to Greek, from Greek into English. It's a picture. This is during the Elizabethan period. Okay, it was nothing but blacks. Okay, that ruled. Okay, Germany and England during that period. This is a picture of King James right here.
That's a brother.
Is it true? Let me ask you something, Frank.
I don't know. Look, I don't know about his lifestyle. I just know that's a picture. Okay.
Let me ask you: Is it true King James had an inflation of monks because monks were the original printers? Because he had everybody reprint the Bible, and he had everybody reprint history. Like you say, we were not gonna get into his lifestyle. It was real controversial, but at the same time, they say he had an inflation of monks. Monks were the first original printers, and he had them to rewrite history, as you say, whitewash. So how much of that is accurate? How much of that is just up in the air?
Right. When you read about the Nicaea conference, which King James actually got together a lot of scribes, and one of the scribes actually was Shakespeare, by the way. Okay, and that's noted to be true as well too. And they didn't write the Bible, because the Bible only has one author. That's the Heavenly Father. You got to give him credit for that. You know, but they just got together and just translated the Bible from the original Hebrew, okay, from Hebrew to Greek, and from Greek, okay, until English. That's all they did. They just translated the Bible. The Bible, let me say this also, and this may sting a little bit too. Don't you know the Bible is one of the biggest Black history books on this planet?
Yes. Yes.
It has to be.
It's one
And
of
It has to be.
the biggest Black history books on this planet. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't know that. Okay, it is. It's color. The prophets were dark-skinned people. Okay, you can look, write this down. Russian icon books. Okay, you can look up some of the Russian icon books. Okay, and it's nothing but, matter of fact, here we go right here. Okay, this is what you was talking about as well too, brother Ian. This is a picture right here of your homeboy Socrates.
That's a black man.
There you go. Socrates.
I just find it real hard that you have physical evidence that he's a black man, but yet they're still trying to tell us that they were white. I just don't understand.
Right.
Because we like to listen to the professionals, and he said the key to all of it is the reading. And I will tell you why. Two things that made me click to realize what you said one day made complete sense to me. One, the reading part. The number one thing they did not want us to do ever was to read.
Right.
The number one thing it was a crime to read.
Yes.
At one time. And the reading is where you catch that at, because if you read it for yourself, you get it. Now, if my grandmama learned from her grandmama, who learned from her grandmama, who did not read, that information came to me, and I slept anybody tell my grandma lying. So you can't tell me nothing when it comes to telling me what my grandma said. But that's the knowledge I live by. But if I read,
right,
it's a different monster. And that's the key to a lot of it. They hate it. A lot of them get mad at me when they tell me something. They be like, you always got a question because I'm going to go read it. You're not going to tell me something that I'm not going to go figure out, because we pass knowledge down without verifying if it's correct. We just take it from the older person that we looked up to. Reading is fundamental. Y'all laughing at me.
That's not culture though, Chris, because it goes the same way with cooking when they say diabetes is hereditary. No, everybody's cooking with fat back in the damn greens. Everybody's cooking with lard. You still saying, like, because it's passed down. Nobody's taking the time to sit here and read a book on nutrition. Nobody's taking the time to read a book on economics in the Black community. So like you said, like if they take time to read this, we'll be a better off.
Anthony, you hit it on the head on that one. Anthony Ashford asks, when was the actual term Black started to be used to describe our race?
That's a good question, Anthony.
Black was actually back during the Hellenistic period, during the time of Rome. They used that term. They used to call the Black Jews that lived in Rome Black. Black people back then. Okay, and that was way back during the Hellenistic period. And coincidentally, when you look up the Hellenistic period during the time when you had the Blacks that were in Rome, they called actually where the Blacks lived at actually ghettos. Okay, back then they called them ghettos back then. Oh my goodness, I wish I had that book with me. Where the Black Jews lived at, they called those ghettos. They put us in a separate part of Rome, okay, that's the most dilapidated area, so we can actually dwell amongst each other. And it's no coincidence today, throughout every city, okay, throughout the United States, okay, where most Blacks live at, they're also called ghettos as well too. That's a Roman name, ghetto. And let me say this also: the names that we have today, even the English names that we have today, we speak a broken English. Okay, we speak a broken English name. Okay, I'm trying to read this when the actual name started. I would say, what, brother, to be honest with you, I would probably say back in 1745. Okay, 1745, probably be exact around that time, about 1745, around that time. Okay, now I would say even, the language that we even speak, okay, it's a broken English. It's a broken British accent. That's the reason why when you go over to Great Britain, they can understand every word that we're saying. People over there in England, they can understand every word that we're saying. We just speak a broken British accent. That's the reason why, is because we're still up under the British rule, the United Kingdom. Everything, every law, everything that's mandated comes from Queen Elizabeth over here, okay, in England. Okay, that's where everything comes from, because we're still property, of the English, we're still property, okay, of Great Britain, because they were the ones who sold us over here, okay, to the French, to the Spanish, okay, to the Portuguese, to the Arabs as well too. That's the reason why they can understand, what's the first English that we learn in school? What's the first language you learn is English. Why English? Why can't we speak our native tongue that we've been speaking? Why English? Because we're still property of English as well too, and they're still paying taxes for us as well too.
Right.
It's amazing the stuff that you don't know, but it's almost like parents, please don't let your kids watch this. I'm about to mess up y'all holidays. It's like Christmas. You hide things in plain sight.
Right.
I put snacks above my kids' heads. I don't put them in my car, but they won't look up. They put the knowledge right there where we can see it, but we don't go for it. And we're settling very often because we're better than our ancestors. But a lot of what you've taught us, a lot of what I've read, a lot of what I've looked at your other interviews is we're not better because they've already been where we at. They were wealthy. They own land. We got mortgages. They own businesses. And I'm not saying because somebody got to work the fries and somebody got to own the McDonald's. I ain't saying everybody got to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
But they own things and they employ their people. Right. We say, I don't want to deal with a black business because they're trifling. I don't want to deal with a black business because it's that. I don't want to deal with that. But there's black businesses that are bad. There are white businesses that are bad. There are Asian businesses that are bad.
Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on a second.
I think what you're saying is, like he was saying, we're integrated now. We're watered down. We were so potent on what we want to do, like marching together, sticking together, each one teach one. Like right now, I just think we're watered down. Every man for himself, crab in the barrel.
But we think it's okay because we've been taught that it's okay to think that way. We don't support our own because we don't believe it's right. We don't believe it's legit. We don't have that mindset. But the reality is, change the narrative. You come from riches. You come from success. You come from wealth. You come from fighters.
It's not that we don't want to support our own, though. Sometimes we try to support our own, and because we are supporting them, they think they can be lazier on the job for us.
Yeah, and that's true too. That's the race hookup, not the homeboy hookup. The race hookup.
My brother, so I'm not gonna do a good job I would do over there. Wow, you cut my yard as good as you cut hers. You know what I mean? I'm paying my money.
I supported Walmart, and they just as lazy and don't want to open up now. Register.
But sis, that's what vexes me because we'll go to Burger King with slow to no progress.
Right.
We go to a black restaurant and don't have a table clean off. We're on Facebook bashing our restaurant. And that's not how we can grow our community. We're not keeping our dollar in. If you can have the patience for Burger King, who has no identity, I mean.
Waffle House, which is the nastiest place.
Right. So you should have a little bit more patience for Keisha's, Kiki's, Charles, Ray Ray's barbecue. We don't have the patience for one another, but we are so forgiving to other races.
If you pay attention, we as a people, we do it to our families. My grandma used to say this to us all the time. Forgive me when I say you kiss the behinds of them people in the streets. You better love the ones in your household the same way. We'll go on the streets and treat people who are not our family like they walk on water, and come home and treat the ones that you got to live with every day that got to be in the emergency room, or God forbid at the place burying you, like they're nothing. We always tend to mistreat our own, but it's a trait, but it's a habit. And when you get educated on this, it makes you feel different. I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I mean, I don't feel like I'm bad, but I don't feel like I'm doing better than nobody when I realize there's been wealthy black people. There's been millionaires. Being a millionaire new in black community is they've been doing that, but we can keep doing it because it's been possible even when the internet and all these other opportunities we had were not available.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's funny that we have more history on Martin Luther King opposed to more history on that term. Even John Brown, who's an abolitionist, who was against it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with Frank where somewhat Martin Luther King was there to push the agenda. We've been having a conversation in the barbershop one time where they were comparing Martin Luther King and Malcolm X to a Richard Pryor and a Bill Cosby. Where they want you to feel as if though Martin Luther King and Bill Cosby was more so the safer side. Malcolm X and Richard Pryor more so risque because they spoke the black man's mind. So that's why I was asking Frank earlier, how much of that agenda has been pushed into our entertainment? Like you said, where we turn on TV, we got white Barbie dolls. They got you feeling as if, like you said, the Kardashians. I watched them on your podcast. It's like,
right.
How much of that is the agenda being pushed, and how asleep are us people who's supposed to be woke are? In your
brother Ian, that's a real good point, brother Hurt. Let me say this too. I apologize. I had to run for a minute. White America has taught us to hate ourselves. Everything about us, the way we look, our nose, our skin complexion, the way we walk, the way, our swag is. Everything that they teach us to hate about ourselves, they embrace for themselves. And that's that's their nature, that's how they are, that's how they get down. And the sooner our people find this out, the better. Our people are more prone to blame, like Sister Crystal just said. Our people are more prone to blame and turn on one another, other than going to the root of the problem and solving it. And I'm gonna get to your point, Brother Hurt, in a minute. She made a real good point. The last time I checked, listen, the Remington family that make guns, Carl and West Remington, they're Europeans. Okay, the last time I checked, the Colt family, Sam and Alex Colt, they're Europeans. Okay, the Smith and Wesson family, okay, they're Italians. Okay, so my thing is this. Okay, if you're gonna blame us, okay, for shooting each other in the hood, okay, why don't we start from the source and why don't we get rid of that? Why don't we protest the Labs and the Smith and Wesson families, okay, for protesting and making the guns? You got to start at the root first. Okay, when they sit you down, when they operate on you in the hospital, they don't surface and go around everything. They try to go to the source of what's making you sick so they can get rid of it. If you know what I'm talking about, there would be no guns in the hood if the Smith and Wesson family, the Colt family, the Remington family, and the Mossberg family, and the Ruger family, okay, because like you got a collection in your house. That's besides the point. But listen, if it wasn't for those families producing guns, we wouldn't have no option but not to use them. Just like illegal narcotics. Okay, I don't know one black family, okay, that owns a meth lab or an ethanol lab, okay, to put the ingredients inside drugs. I don't know any black family that has this. Okay, we don't own the CTS, by the way. Okay, that promotes bad chemicals that go in the food, and the FDA approves the poison, okay, of the food, the cancerous foods, and the ingredients that go in the food. We don't own these things. Okay, so a lot of times it kind of sickens me just a little bit when we rather blame each other, okay, for the problem rather than blame the source itself. Y'all understand what I'm saying? What we have, okay, to utilize these things and use these gadgets and use drugs if it wasn't made and produced, okay, for use. You understand what I'm saying? So you gotta ask yourself that: are we the problem, or are they the problem? We don't go around and kill animals and lock them up in cages. We don't go around hunting rare animals. We don't do that. We don't do that. So what you were saying as far as King, listen, Martin Luther King, again, if we had our own land, we had our own hospitals, that's something y'all to think about. That's something y'all to think about. I know y'all are very smart. Y'all know exactly what I'm trying to say. Look, if we had our own hospitals, we had our own school systems, we had our own pharmacies, we had everything going for us. Okay, own land. Why would we need to integrate with people that just had us in slavery, whipping the hell out of us, whipping our grandparents, raping our kids, raping our fathers? Why would you want to integrate with people like that when we have everything that we need?
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
The CIA hired Martin Luther King, okay, along with they had the biggest draft, okay, still known, okay, to mankind, called the Vietnam draft. Okay, the United States actually purchased over 5,000 acres of land in Vietnam, and planted poppy seeds all over the place. All Vietnam was a big ass trap house. That's all
Woo!
Vietnam. That's all Vietnam was.
They took a lot of black men out of our homes and brought them back addicts with PTSD. Now that's the God's honest truth. You want to take a family and track it down, you take the head and leave them back and make them a disabled vet. Woo!
There you go.
I like to go when you said like they like to take our culture and punish us for it. Going back to hip hop, when Tupac said, "And never look back, because if they could be black, then they would switch. You'll be fired with bust ass bitches." Meaning, like, how dare they punish you for something that they're gonna thrive to be? And
Right.
it was very much understood then as a 14-year-old kid hearing that. So like it's still just sticking around. I'm sorry. Go ahead on.
No, you're absolutely correct. We're the only people, brother Ian. Look, brother Ian, we're the only people that get in trouble for being who we are. You can't wear your hair that way. You can't listen. Music is too loud. You can't walk a certain way. You can't dress a certain way. We're the only people on this earth that get in trouble for being who we are.
Right.
But they want to be us, and then they leave us. Let me hit y'all with this right here, and right up under the noses of everybody. I'm gonna hit y'all with this right here. Okay, what they do, brother Ian. I'm picking on Ian because he ain't got too much to say, so I'll pick on him for the rest.
I'm a student. I'm loving all this learning I'm getting. Loving all this learning.
Good. Crystal and Herc, I love them because they got a lot of. I'll pick on brother Ian. Listen. This is how white America gets down. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. This is how white America gets down. Okay, this pen was invented by a black man. What's his name again? William Purvis. He invented soap too. The folding chair that you sitting right on, the ones that fold up, Purdy and Stagwar was a black company. The cellular phone, okay, invented by a black man, Henry T. Sampson. Lawnmower, John Burr. Okay,
GPS, Gladys.
Ice cream was invented by Augustus Johnson Jackson. So my thing is this, okay? One more. Typewriter was invented by a guy by the name of Burridge and Marshman. Okay, one more. Science teacher, Thomas Martin. So look, this is how America gets down. They use our genius, they take it away from us, and they incorporate it, okay, for themselves. Okay, that includes everything that comes with it. So you got to look at it like this. How long is moonshine? How long is corn liquor moonshine been in existence? That's been illegal since black people was making it back in during the time of slavery. So now all of a sudden it's outlawed thing. So now you're going to look now. Now they got it incorporated. Now they're selling it. Marijuana.
Talk that noise, Frank. Talk that noise, Frank.
Right. Look. Right. Look. Right. Look.
Behaviors.
Legal for centuries. All of a sudden, they're realizing all the money that can be made off the taxes. So why don't we just legalize marijuana? Forget that, the causes and effects of it. Why don't we legalize marijuana? The same thing as everything else they do. What's the difference? Look, what's the difference? I want y'all all to think about this. What's the difference in me going to the doctor, getting some oxycodone pills for whatever it's for health, and me saying, "Oh my, I got 20 oxycodone pills left in my box. I think I'm gonna sell them to my next door neighbor." They will come and they will lock me up. Why is it legal for a pharmacy to sell them? Why don't they go lock the pharmacists up for selling the same damn drugs? Illegal for us, legal for them. American Idol, they hijacked up from Showtime at the Apollo. That's all it is. Showtime at the Apollo, we started that first during the time of slavery. The slave masters used to get the slaves and entertain. They used to let us entertain them on Sundays during dinner. And we used to sing, we used to sue the banjo, we used to play the banjo. Back in 1625, tap dancing started. Okay, back in Virginia, back in Richmond, Virginia, you had slave masters that used to take pistols and shoot at the slaves' feet and see how high they can jump and say dance to the bullets. That's where tap dancing originated from. And let me say this too again, shows like American Idol, shows like what's another one, brother Ian? American Idol.
So you think you can dance? You got talent?
Star Search.
That Star Search, right? That's an old right. That's before my time, Ian. Look.
No. You know Ed McMahon with the rest of us.
I don't know what you're talking about, brother Ian. But listen, all of that started. How did American Idol just all of a sudden just hijack? That's just a modern day Apollo. That's all it is. That's all it is. People getting up performing. The people boo you. This time, the people at home, they vote you and see who wins. It's the same exact thing. That's all it is. They hijack stuff like that up on our noses all the time. And we sit back, we don't say nothing. Like the culture of hip hop. Okay. What's the guy's name? The European guy, now he's sick, his face is dropping. You know it's my brother hurt. Bieber.
Justin Bieber?
Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't look, he wouldn't be as popular if he didn't have no black swag.
I concur wholeheartedly with that. Like they'll play the way my uncle told me when I was little. He said there's 4 things that Europeans invented. One thing they don't want to take credit for. He said a pen, which is a lie. He said a patent, right? He said the 3rd thing is anything, and the 4th thing is racism. They don't want to take credit for racism. So
Wow.
When they brought racism is a problem in America. We know that, but let's talk about classism on top of the racism. Because if racism is the case, classism should be the icing.
Right.
Because it's something that we have to deal with internally inside our culture, as well as inside
light versus dark, red versus black. The classifications that we create our own racism amongst ourselves. We had a comment that came in that said, "Can you speak on African tribal wars and their impact on the to the Atlantic slave trade?"
Yeah, you had a lot of blacks that were selling blacks during the time of slavery as well too, during the time of the Dahomean Empire. In the 1500s, you had a lot, of black on black wars that was down in Southwest Africa. During the time of the King Dahomean Empire, that was the biggest during the time of the transatlantic slave trade, which he's talking about. You had people, the Portuguese, along with the French and along with a lot of African tribes that was selling actually black Jews into slavery, over the coast of Africa over here to America as well too. And of course, it was that if that's what you want to call the first black on black crime back then, it was blacks against blacks. But you did have a lot of blacks selling blacks into slavery, into the hands, of Europeans over here during the transatlantic slave trade. And let me hit you with this also. A lot of times, 2 points I'm about to point out right now. A lot of times you would have Europeans, which I know I've lectured at a lot of colleges, and they would tell me, they would say, well, you had a lot of black people, over here in the United States that owned slaves as well too. Wake up, Crystal. You had a lot of black people that had that had blacks in slavery also too. Well, let me say this. There's no documents in history, and there's no history book that I've ever read or I've ever come across, where you can find, a black person that actually purchased a family of blacks from a European family, and whipped the hell out of them and hung and treat them as bad as Europeans. Most of the time, when you had blacks that was actually purchasing other black families from Europeans, they was rescuing them from the atrocities and the hardcore punishments, that the Europeans were leveling on them. So you would have Europeans, blacks, they was purchasing them, but they wasn't whipping the hell out of them and hanging the hell out of them, like the Europeans was. They was working them, but not as hard. There's no books that can prove that. There's none. Henry T. Ford, another one right here. Henry T. Ford, Crystal, listen to this. Henry T. Ford, made the pickup truck in the late 1800s. Henry T. Ford. That was a modern day invention that actually mimicked the slave wagons that used to bring the slaves out to the field on the back of the wagons. The slaves were getting picked up from the slave house and put on the back of the wagons and taken out to the fields. If you notice, that's what they're called, pick up trucks. Okay, who were they picking up? They were picking up slaves and bringing them out to the field. And you notice Europeans, they crazy about pickup trucks. Right? People don't really too fond of pickup trucks unless you're from the South and that's what was bred into you. You're a truck driver. But for the most part, that's not our thing. That's not our thing. Pickup trucks. That's why you see at a lot of Klan rallies and you see at a lot of rallies that are against blacks. You see they have that American flag stuck where? Right in the back of the truck. A lot of our people don't pick up on that item. That was made from a slave wagon, a pickup truck, and they was taking blacks in the back. And you got these white Europeans that know this. So hard Europeans, the ones that are, the ones that still go around going, yeah, they know the deal. They know the deal about those pickup trucks. We don't.
Tell them about
It's a lot of
picnic.
things
How
that
do
we
we go
don't
to
know
a
the
picnic?
history of or where it came from, how it started. We know we see it. We know that we hear it's good to do. We know that picnics and a lot of these different things, auctions and all these things are cool to go to, but the history of them is really disturbing.
Right.
It's like when you're a kid, you hear "Ring Around the Rosie" and you sing it, and then when you get older, you realize that was when they had, a disease and they were burning bodies and the ashes of people falling down, and you're like, oh, well then why are we singing that? Because it ain't cute. But you don't know the history behind some of the stuff that is taught to us as okay to do.
Right. Barbecuing too. That's slave masters. Listen, either one of you guys. No, not me.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's
I
what
want to pick up. Mario being funny.
Mario's being funny.
Hey, listen, you remember something? I sort of kind of knew that Ian owned one because when I was saying it, you should have seen the look on his face when I was.
His face changed.
Yeah.
I didn't know the history of that.
Kept a
I didn't know
straight
the history,
face.
so you just gave it to me.
And when Mario said it, I was like, "That's my best friend."
Nah, he's not. Nah.
Hey, listen.
That's the majority.
Hey, listen. The same thing like barbecuing during the time of hardcore slavery. Massa wasn't letting Negroes inside his house to cook no food, to do nothing until later on, until they started letting the butlers and everybody else come in. But we was cooking that food outside. They wasn't letting us come inside. That's where grilling food came from. They wouldn't let us grill.
Listen, I thought you was about to tell me something bad about barbecuing. I was about to say, listen,
no,
I'm gonna give up a lot.
No. Outdoor grilling came from slavery. That's where we had to cook the food at. Out on the grill, out in slavery. We had to make stove. Listen, you can visit any slave plantation today, and you can actually go outside of the main house, and you'll see outside stoves outside the house where we used to barbecue food at.
There's a place down in Beaufort area that's just a school. But if you go, the school was during the time right after slavery when they were all trying to have trade schools and different things and get us on our feet. But you see a lot of the outhouses, you see a lot of the which by the way, we a whole lot bigger than people too, because the chairs, tables, and everything was smaller. But you do get to see a lot of the things that where our habits come from, preserving things, cooking outside, creating things ourselves. Why it's a big deal to iron our clothes and how they took pride in how they looked and what they did. It's amazing the things that we've pushed to the side and the things that we've embraced, because some of the things that we should have kept on are the things that would have made us successful today. Doing things for ourselves. We know how to make our own food right now. This nasty crap at these restaurants would be making us sick.
Oh, absolutely. You think you really think Colonel Sanders really created Kentucky Fried Chicken?
No.
And his 17 spices and wonders make me sick today.
Let me ask you something, Frank. I want you to speak on Haiti and why it should be more important than what it is. Haitians don't get shouted out against the slave rebellion, how they basically beheaded anybody whose master came to the island to pick them up. They were welcoming free slaves.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. We all sisters and brothers, slaves, Dominicans, the Haitians, Puerto Ricans, we all brothers and sisters, people in the islands. And let me tell you something, when the French was coming, to invade Haiti, during the time in the 1600s and in the 1800s, let me tell you something, the Haitians, they were putting voodoo on their ass, okay? And let me tell you something, they wasn't putting it in a bad way against one another. They were putting it against the people that was coming to attack them, okay? So, you know, like you said, they're our people, you know, but today, of course, you know, the French, that's where they learned that broken French called patois, okay? Because when the French was invading Haiti back then, that's the language that was left on that island, okay, patois. So it's the same, just like when Columbus came over here to America and invaded the Puerto Rican islands. They was Puerto Rican, they learned the Spanish language. It's the same thing. But let me hit you with this also. The same way how we eat certain things today, like rum cake actually came from a defensive mechanism from the people in the Caribbean islands when you had the Spanish and when you had some of the French guys come down there and invade them and sleep overnight and rape the women. They used to put they used to make the cakes and put a lot of rum, okay, inside the cakes and get the Spanish and the French drunk as hell and used to kill them off. So a lot of people don't even know that rum cake was actually made as a mechanism of a war mechanism towards our enemies, and used to get them drunk as hell and used to slaughter them too. So today when you're eating that rum cake, Ian, today you eat it because it got a quick cake, and your friend going on vacation and saying, you telling them they going out to the islands, you saying bring back some of that good old rum cake. But our forefathers was actually using that rum cake as a mechanism of war to fight off our enemies.
Man, this has been some of the best history
That drunk cake can put me to sleep because that rum be heavy in that cake if it's made right. I tell you that one.
You ate some before the show. That's why you sleeping now.
You got people sending me messages right now. And I'm saying stuff like, wait a minute.
Tell us about your books. Tell us more about your books and what they're about and where we can pick them up at.
Oh, okay, man. Listen, the last book I've written, okay, was Oh Say Can You See? It's called The Unmentioned History of Terrorism on Blacks in America. Now, I'm gonna be as raw as I can be, but I'm gonna be very diplomatic. You know, slavery is still one of the biggest terrorist acts that ever been levied on anyone, okay, to this day. I don't care what you say, I don't care how you put it, I don't care how you want to put history, I don't care what you want to do. Millions of our forefathers were slaughtered during the slave trade, okay, and they was thrown overboard. That's where sharks is said, that's where the term man-eater shark. You had the shark population quadrupled during the slave trade. You had the slave masters that used to throw the slaves overboard, and the sharks in schools and thousands of schools to follow the slave ships and eat our forefathers. That's why today you can find most of the sharks, okay, that travel, okay, from Southwest Africa to the shores over into America. They're still programmed, okay, to that direction to go back and forth over in the Atlantic, okay, and that's where the term man-eater came from. The sharks, the shark population quadrupled during that time. There was a lot of atrocities was levied towards our people that we don't even know about.
Oh, say can you see?
That's right. That's right. And my books, listen, my books are relegated, okay, towards the conversation that no one wants to have. Like we've been having today, Sister Crystal, no one wants to have these conversations because we're the only people on this earth that apologize for being right. How do you apologize for being right? If you're right, you're right. You have entertainers that come out and say something that's right. You understand what I'm saying, Brother Hurt? Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm for saying that. I'm sorry. I won't do it no more. Look at what's the guy name again? Turban. He got about 1,000 kids. Young guy. Cannon.
Nick Cannon. He got about 1,000 kids in the turban.
Yeah, 1,000 kids.
I was thinking Haji. No,
I'm thinking Osama bin Laden.
I'm thinking Johnny Quest. I'm thinking Haji. He's talking about Nick Cannon.
All they had to do is say, "What's the brother from Wild 'N Out?"
Right. Oh, Nick Cannon, one time came out on TV and he said something about white America, which was absolutely true. Look, the only thing he said in a short is that they came from the Caucasus Mountains. That's all he said, basically. They came from the Caucasus Mountains in South Georgia, Russia, and they made him go back and apologize, and I won't do it anymore. But it's absolutely true. You ever notice that we're the only ones that have to apologize for being correct? I don't understand it. I don't get that.
Yeah.
We have a bad habit of that, and it's something embedded in all of us. We've all been guilty of it, which is why this conversation has been very interesting. I can't tell y'all how many times this thing done buzzed in my lap since this conversation started. Woo, it's an interesting set of conversation here, but it's a good conversation because one of the biggest things I've always said is I like to make the uncomfortable conversations comfortable. Talk about the things because it should not be a bad thing to talk about what really happened. You should not be ashamed to say in our families that we should have dealt with inappropriate touching of children, that we should have dealt with poverty, that we should have dealt with bad toxic relationships, that we should have dealt with illiteracy. You should not be ashamed to talk about the reason that we're all sick is because we had bad eating habits. You have to be able to call out the trash to clear it out. If you do not deal with it, you cannot fix it. Now, we are the only ones who try to harp on it and use it as I got a problem, so I'm gonna call out your problem so I don't have to deal with my problems. That's bullcrap. It is time for us to deal with who we are by learning what we really were and what we're really capable of so we can become everything that we need to be, which is why this conversation had to take place today, which is why we took this hour today to bring you on before we go to Juneteenth and we all start whooping and hollering about the 250,000 people that found out that we were free. Let's also remember about the ones who went out into the world like the Israelites and turned right back around and saying being with Massa was a hell of a lot better than being in the woods. Let's talk about the ones who were working for pennies and building the Biltmore that we drive to. So it's been an ongoing battle since, and it's still going on. But the key to fixing it is the one thing that we were unable to forever do, and that's read.
Right.
Read, and then work, because faith without deeds is dead. And so for many of us, like last year, this podcast 7 months ago was a conversation amongst friends. Y'all gonna talk about it in a minute. Y'all gonna deal with it in a minute. And now every Wednesday we are up on here and holding each other accountable to have this discussion. Now we are going forth and pulling and pushing each other to pull your dreams out and to go for them. And now our children are saying things like, I saw you on TV. I saw you on this. But they're seeing that. Now that's embedded in them. And before you know it, they keep rolling with it. When I'm dead and gone, they can pull these videos back and take a look at them. But it's stuff that we're going to have to make a habit of, because the parties, the good times, and all the other stuff that we do is not going to go with us. And they're not going to be like, you know what, that party in 1622 was really dope. It's that thing that you did that was uncomfortable that made it comfortable. It's that change. It's that shift. It's that family legacy that you created. It's that generational curse that carries on. And if we don't start doing that, then we're not going to fix these problems. We're going to be a generation of complainers that talked about shit we did not make better. And that's where we need to be right now. Fix it. Right. You can talk about it all day long, but fix it.
Right. But okay, not to cut you off. I'm going back to the original question that I asked. How far removed are we from fixing it, sis and Frank and how much has what we do in our everyday habits, how much is that pushing the agenda? I'm gonna
tell you the truth, Herc. You're never too far gone to come back, but you're never too far gone where you can't fix it. The problem with fixing it is we so busy wanting to talk about and discuss the problems, we're not doing nothing. They didn't talk about the problems that went on in the civil rights. They got their asses up and they went out in March. Whether Martin was hired by somebody or not, they followed him.
I'm agreeing with that, but Martin didn't have a phone in his hand with 39 notifications from 5 different, like what I'm saying is how much the agenda of taking your attention away from what's really going on, aiding to the fact that we need you to separate. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you, but it's so much going on that we have to pay attention to.
The power that Martin Luther King had to make thousands follow him without the internet. That man that runs Facebook, whose name I won't say because they may clock it, got 4 billion people on here. Imagine if Martin could have had that power to make billions follow him. We so busy looking at the addiction to the likes and notifications. Check the power on it. You got kids who got millions of people that follow them on TikTok. Look at the power of having a following. What if you use that following for good instead of bullshit?
But it all depends on the following that you're sending. Because, like Frank brought up earlier, Nick Cannon has 10 million followers, but he had to go apologize.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Because that's his livelihood. He can't mess up his livelihood. He got all these kids.
That's what I'm saying.
So
right.
Because his livelihood was dependent on somebody else.
Though it's hard to fix when you have a following like that. Because the minute you say something wrong with that kind of following, if you don't apologize, and today, cancel culture. You're done.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. It's like so much depends on these where your likes and your following has become your currency, right? So what I'm saying is, how many people are willing to jeopardize that against what's right? Because what's not right now is not like just because you're opposed to something else, you're called or labeled a hater. My whole thing is like you could be dead right, but the popularity may be going with dead wrong. How much has entertainment made this go like this? That's
you know how many of these hateful people have gone, and because Facebook won't let them spew hate, they created their own apps that have their own social media, and they got millions. Like they really go and make their own app, and they can say as much hateful crap as they want on their social media platform. Literally, they don't do Twitter, they don't do Facebook, they go create their own. It's the matter of taking the power out of somebody's hands.
Right.
Like he said, we owned our own jobs.
Right. Listen, I agree. Listen, all three of you are right, to tell you the truth. And let me just say this real quick. I know I've been talking a lot. I think that our people have gotten very comfortable, not in ignorance, but just like the Bible says, a gift destroyeth the heart. So you can be mad and you can realize the things that have been going on and, the things that still are going on. But that gift going to destroy your heart. It's going to make you compromise your morals. Me personally, it's nothing. It's let me tell you something. It's nothing on this planet, okay, that can make me compromise my righteous morals, okay, to something that I want to do. Or you won't never catch me slipping, okay? That's done. You won't see me in a restaurant, okay, doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. You can follow me around with a camera all day long. Matter of fact, you do it tomorrow. You're not going to catch me doing something or compromising my morals. You know what I'm saying, Brother Hurt? You're not going to catch me slipping, okay? Because I'm sincere, okay, in what I believe in, what I stand for. Hey, listen, you got to stand for something or you die for nothing. And I'm going to tell you like this: there's too many of our people that's compromising their morals and their integrity for a gift. Okay, and that's something that we can't do, okay, because if we don't have our morals and our integrity, what the hell do we have? Okay, that means that anyone can come along, okay, and break you down to the point because they know what you like, okay, and they know what you'll take, okay. But if we stand strong together and we like, nah, we don't want no damn gift. No, it can't, hey, listen. The welfare reform bill can't make up for reparation, because that's what happened during the time of the Vietnam War. Okay, how they separated the family. The welfare reform bill came in, a black woman by herself, and look, the government came right on and they said, hey, listen, the man over there signed this bill right here. We give you some food, we give you a check. Don't let us come in here and see that black man in the house. So you had a lot of them that signed twice. I almost signed twice to keep that nigga out of the house. Hell yeah. So what it is, you got to think about it. That was the beginning of the end right there. Okay, so, and not to say that certain things, because you had a lot of black women that still had men in the house, they didn't care. Okay, and not to say that all women were like that. Okay, but you got to kind of think of the historynomics behind that and how did that benefit us? Okay, even till today. Okay, as far as the one-parent household versus the two-parent household, was that better? And there's some really great women out here doing a phenomenal job in raising their kids. I got to take my hats off, to the women.
Shout out to the women.
Shout out to the women that are doing that phenomenal job. Taking care of the that's excellent. I love that. But then again, two is better than one. Two is better than one. We're stronger together than we are apart. Don't ever let society tell you that you don't need no man, okay, and you can do better without him, okay, because I'm gonna say it again. I'd rather have two rather than one. Two is stronger than one any day. If it's a case where it's your choice and you want to, just have that me time and you can meditate a whole lot better by yourself, I totally understand that.
Still be active, still be present, and still be accountable. Absolutely. Still be there. This is not out of sight, out of mind, and that's a different monster. It's a different type of village we got to come back with. the key to making sure that we don't let the influence us is your wealth has to come from a place that can't be broken by somebody else. You know why Trump didn't care what he said?
There you go.
Because he couldn't touch his money. Trump wasn't being sponsored by none of those people that could influence what he made or didn't make. So he said what he wanted, and he did what he wanted. The reason why Nick Cannon can't do that is because Viacom shut him the freak down.
There you go.
And that's where his money was. It wasn't Wilding Out. It wasn't all that. They took him off of every station.
Right.
And that's a different monster, because you can't run your mouth when your check is signed by somebody who tells you respect my values.
There you go.
If I tell my kids to respect my house, you don't get to come in my house and act like that. But I can't say none of them in their house.
You're right. Hey, look,
you hit on something that you emphasize the need for blacks to back blacks. That doesn't make us racist. That doesn't make us selfish. That makes us able to say, I'm funding where I come from and where I hope to head. Right. And right now, like I want to shout out to the Juneteenth Freedom Festival right now. They have the power this whole week to say, we're going to shop black.
All week.
You understand? Everybody in America, with 20,000 people, we're going to shop black this week. That doesn't make us racist. I just want to look out for black people, black small businesses this week.
Right.
And once we start off with a week, we can start off with a month. We start off with a month. We can start off with a quarter. We can start off with a year. Then I feel as if though we can change our community as a whole simultaneously.
Right. And let me say this too, Brother Hurt. You hit it on the nail. You know, hey, listen. Between the four of us, we can come up with enough money to buy 3 acres of land between the four of us, okay? And I know in South Carolina, that land is cheap, okay, in them woods, okay? And that land is still cheap out there. We can buy about 4 acres of land, a piece between the four of us. You can contract somebody to come in here, okay, and build our own schools for our kids. We can build our own supermarkets. We can get our own irrigation water system, and we can control our own narrative. That's the way we were thinking in the past. That's the way we were thinking in the past. We no longer think like that anymore. We think independent. You know, we think, you know, I got mine, you get yours. We're independents now. We're individuals now. Don't you know we get nowhere, okay, as individuals? Okay, we're stronger together than we are apart. The enemy can come in and surround us if we're individuals, attack and keep the hell about us and destroy us. But when we're stronger together, that's where they entered in Martin Luther King, okay, in the 60s. Okay, that's where they entered the man. During that time, we were at our peak. It was more black businesses, more black riches during that time, more businesses, black airports, black hospitals, black businesses, black schools, okay. Everything in each city, okay, in Detroit, Michigan. And I'm not talking about just a couple of houses here and there. I'm talking about entire communities, acres and acres and acres and acres of just black owned everything, okay? All of a sudden, they think that. They said, no way. No way.
So you asked this question a lot of times on our shows. How has this influenced that? How has this done that? And then what can we do? At the end of the day, the one thing that we can do is the hardest thing for us to do, and that's work together.
There you go.
Period.
There you go.
No matter how you sugarcoat it.
Kirk always brings it up, how hip hop has influenced us. You got to look at people like, may he rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. His whole flow in music was about financial literacy and keeping it with your own people.
KRS-One. A lot of them have been saying it from the beginning of time. And if you really want to play with lyrics, when rappers first come out, they do what it takes to get the following. But then when they get to be who they are, they come back with the, let me tell you what we need to do together. That's why people don't like Jay-Z's newer albums as much as they did when he talked that crap back then. They don't like Nas and stuff right now in comparison to
Go ahead.
Nas's stuff that was popular was not the stuff where he was telling us about the kings and the queens and working together and being powerful. The stuff that's supposed to sell, that is what's contributed to us, is not as popular, it's not as pushed, and it's not as promoted. So at the end of the day, it's not the likes, it's not the Facebooks. All that crap is gonna come and go. MySpace is dead.
Yes.
Black Planet died. Everything has its seasons. It's all gonna come and go. But the need for togetherness has never changed from biblical times to today.
Right. Let me drop this on y'all real quick, Brother Herkin. I know you want to say something real quick. let me say this, right? I've got into a lot of conversations about, rappers and, what they need to do and this. Let me say this, right? Like you mentioned Jay-Z. Okay. Here you have a guy that made his foundation and his fortune about talking about the neighborhood that he grew up in, talking about the neighborhood that he grew up in and everything that he did in his neighborhood, and the way he conducted himself. And that's really what everybody wanted to hear. That's what everybody wanted to hear. And that's what, what really made him start and get his jump start. So you mean to tell me that that to this day, this man is probably worth over $1 billion. Why isn't there one supermarket in that neighborhood? There isn't one school. There isn't one daycare in that supermarket. In that neighborhood. There's nothing associated with Jay that says that he gave back to the very place where he talked about and made his millions off of. It's something wrong with that. Okay, you got guys out here that will go and they will, they will make a brand for themselves. The only time they come back to the Black community is when they want you to support their brand. I have yet to see any Black entertainer come back to the neighborhood and say, this is where I bought this from in bulk. This is what warehouse, this is my connection right here. You can do the same thing. They come back to the Black community, okay, in order for you to support their brand to make them richer.
And
Okay?
it suppress you.
How they did it.
Yes. But Jay said in one of his songs, it makes perfect sense. He said, I dumbed down for my audience just to double my dollars. They criticize me for it, but they all yell holler. If skill sold, truth be told, I probably be lyrically tight lip quad leaf. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I sold 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like common sense. When your sense got that much in common and you've been hustling since, your inception for perception go with what makes sense. Since I know what I'm up against, we as rappers must decide what's most important. And
that's
I want
a great verse, Hurt.
He's basically telling me, like, I want to give you knowledge, but y'all not gonna pay me for that. Right. So I'm gonna dumb down and I'm just gonna give you ignorant shit. So everybody that's so-called conscious is now called underground. And I think that's purposely done. That's why I favor Nas, because he dances on the line of mainstream and underground.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's why he's street disciple. So I'm not here to compare apples to oranges. What I'm saying, that's my concern with Oprah passing out chicken, with Jay-Z kicking rhymes like that. And these are the people who are pretty much the influencer who were striving once we get out the hood to be. Whereas if though I need more big crits, I need more Talib Kweli's, I need more Arrested Development, I need the people wearing the braids and the bees and the nappy heads and the African colors. Like, why is that being pushed back? So when I'm saying I'm questioning entertainment, one year on Martin Luther King's birthday, I'm watching what the hell was it? Duck Dynasty. Why the hell am I watching Duck Dynasty on the History Channel on Martin Luther King's birthday? Because they don't give a damn about the history. So that's what I'm saying about the agenda being pushed.
Right.
And, that's kind of where, as we wrap it up tonight, with everything that goes back to the beginning of everything that we said is Talib Kweli would not be underground if the radio stations were Black owned,
right, Black
supported,
right,
and we played what we wanted to play. The guns wouldn't be there without the gun makers. We are being, I got $1. You gonna do what I said?
Right.
I got $1. You gonna do what I said? No, I'm not gonna do what you said. This is my radio station, and in my house we play this. You're gonna have to make Black popular again. You're going to have to make conscience popular again. You're going to have to make it's okay to be in love. Before we can make everybody love us, we got to love ourselves. Black men hate Black women hate Black men. Black kids don't want to be big. It's a lot of hate amongst ourselves. It's okay to be in love. It's okay to treat her right. It's okay to let them kids see you kissing. It's okay for them kids to see health. It's okay for them kids to see all that good stuff. Because if you don't send it out your own house, don't come preaching it to everybody everybody else's. And that is going to be the reality of a lot of things. Toxic is not okay. Healthy is. And that healthy may be a bonus mom and a bonus dad working with other parents raising kids. It may be mom and dad together. It may be grandma helping the grandkids. If that village learns to work together, would be better. But if we start it and we make it cool here, you can't help but follow it. And that's going to be our biggest things above everything. You got to start it there. And that's where we wanted to wrap up with tonight with there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to teach. There's a lot we need to do with our own children.
I gotta go buy a new vehicle now.
But there's a lot that we have to do. But we all have kids, and our teaching of what to do better starts right here at home above everything. The love and the family you teach them and the business you build for them, it keeps going. And if they teach it to their friends and their friends, before you know it, you start to see that change because they mimicking what they see out of us. Yeah. Frank, we appreciate you tonight. I thank you so much for reaching out. I thank you so much for coming on.
Get out here. You gotta let everybody know where they can find your books.
Yeah. Oh, you can actually go to Amazon.com and just type in Frank Zaaqan Jordan. Or you can just email me, ZAAQAN1212 @yahoo.com. And I just want to say this one thing. Hey, listen, you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and thank you so much for having me. And I always tell people all the time, don't be afraid to be yourself. Okay, love who you are. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Okay, and be as black as you can. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you straight up, be as black as you can. You know, don't let nobody tell you your nose is big and you're not a jeans person. We're the greatest people on this earth. And I'm gonna keep saying that too. We're the greatest people on this earth. And if I can show you the amount of scripts, okay, and phone calls that I get on a monthly basis of networks wanting me to incorporate, okay, certain blackness and things that people don't know into their scripts and into their shows. But they always want me to dumb down certain things. I'm not doing it. I take a match and I burn the script. I just don't do it. I'm not helping America develop, okay, any more ignorance, okay, that our people are not. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not that type of dude for that. I don't sell my soul, for $1. Not me. Okay, money means nothing to me. Okay, but my morals and my integrity means everything.
Yes, sir.
And that there is a major piece of everything. Before I say one more time, we're going to bed. Do either of you have one more thing to say?
Thank you for being on, sir.
Frank, not you. You excuse. It's these other two who keep going. Wait, Ma. I got one more question. But wait. I'm going to give you both a mint like we at church.
There was so much information today. Shouts out to CTS podcast for being featured on WIS TV. We serious here. Shouts out to them representing us good today on Columbia. We thank you. Sorry, Chris. There was just so much information we had to get it all out.
You were excited. I'm gonna hold y'all to this.
I told you.
You know, in other cultures, they feed their sisters and queens and friends in in Africa, they really do take really good care of us.
Absolutely.
Tell them right. They don't know. We appreciate you. I hope that you all enjoyed tonight. I can't wait for Juneteenth. And Frank, we hope to have you back really soon.
Queen Charlotte, black woman. Charlotte's named after Charlotte City, Charlotte. Okay, North Carolina, named after a black woman named Queen Charlotte. She was the Queen of England.
Oh, and that's how you end the show.
Good night.